Good evening. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and thank you for joining me on another edition of Technology Access Television. Well, today Tech Access TV is going international. This is in salute to an upcoming event in Chicago sponsored by the International Executives Resource Group, IERJ, the Chicago chapter. They are known for having some outstanding annual summits that focus on countries. And this year, the focus country is none other than Colombia, the great country in South America that has a unique presence here in Chicago. And to talk about this upcoming event and fill us in on the opportunities that you will be able to participate in, yes, anybody watching our show is invited to attend this outstanding event with business leaders and people who know about Colombia. And my guests today know a lot about Colombia. I'm happy to have the Consul General from Colombia. Thank you so much for being here. Jose Gomez, yes, thank you very much. And my good friend who is the co-chair of IERJ Chicago, Jose Ignacio. Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, I am delighted. As you know, we've had some outstanding summits, and I think there is a lot of enthusiasm for our summit this year focused on Colombia. I understand that you know, when we first met and we had the idea, you actually participated in our event that we did a year ago on Brazil. Yes. And I think that gave you the idea that Colombia should be next.
Yes, I have to recognize the idea was Jose Ignacio's, but thank you for the invitation, and sure that we will make take full advantage of this opportunity.
Well, as the Consul General of Colombia, you've actually had two terms in that post. Yes. Here in Chicago. Tell us about your first term, and when was that, when you had a few years in that post?
Yes, I was appointed by President Pastrana in 1999. I moved and I served at the consulate for 4 years. So I came 1 year into the first Uribe administration.
Okay.
And then I moved to the private sector here in Chicago. So I worked for 6 years with a local company, and then I was appointed again in the consulate by President Santos.
All right. And tell me your impressions of Chicago. Have you noticed a change in the business climate or the growth of Chicago as an international business city in the time that you've been in your post?
Yes, I have noticed it, and most of all is the perception that the outside world is taking of Chicago, recognizing more as the international city that has been for a while, but probably didn't get in the international mindset.
So Jose, you know that from working in the time that you worked in corporate America. And in fact, when we met leading up to this interview, I think there is a lot of similarities between Colombia and Chicago, because Chicago has a reputation, or what people think they know, but it's based on something that is not really what Chicago is about today. And Colombia is such a diverse and exciting country, but we really are not that aware of that diversity and that excitement across all the things that Colombia has to offer. Jose, when you had the idea of bringing this program here, what excited you about Colombia being the focus of this program this year?
Well, it's very simple. I used to work in Latin America 12 years, and every time I had a chance to work with the Colombians, I got the idea that Colombia is a great country. So people are really happy, their working ethics are extremely high. And then when we had the opportunity to meet Mr. Gomez, I said, we better do something about Colombia, because it's such a great country. It's a phenomenal opportunity for any American investor to really consider Colombia as a nice opportunity.
Now, as the co-chair of IERJ, tell us a little bit about this organization that is hosting this summit coming up November 12th.
Well, IERJEZ is a non-profit organization where we just invited business executives who have had international experience. So it's truly a very diverse organization. There are people, honestly, from all over the world who happens to be headquartered here in Chicago. So it's kind of a very friendly association where people have excelled in other countries. And for this kind of things, you need to develop kind of a unique set of skills so that you can bring your local experience into the international market. And in general terms, whatever we want to do with IERJEZ is to really foster communication between Chicago and international market.
And there, I know that IERJ has a very large presence on the East Coast in New York and Boston, yes. Also in San Francisco. Are there chapters around the world as well?
Yes, there are chapters around the world. And I think our chapter here in Chicago has like 30 individuals. Mm-hmm. So it's fairly small, but we are part of a bigger community. For instance, in fact, we have webinars who really talks about business opportunities around the world, whether it's Europe, Asia, or even South America.
Well, it sounds like I'm just getting exposed to it. I've had the good pleasure of being welcomed into the organization, and it's been a phenomenal experience for the last 3 years. We've had our summit focus on China, then Brazil, and now Colombia. And yes. Each year, it seems like the programs get better and better. And tell us a little bit about the program that we'll have this year, because it seems like, along with yourself, Consul General, we've got some exciting people lined up to give us an insight on doing business in Colombia and the opportunity that Colombia represents today for business leaders.
Yeah, basically what we want to do is kind of show people kind of the other side of the equation in terms of Colombia. So what does it take for you to do in business in Colombia? I mean, the goods and the opportunities. Colombia last year signed a free trade agreement with the US. So we have been using the free trade agreement for the last, 18 months?
That's correct.
Like Consul General Gomez, speaking of that, when this President Obama brought forth this new agreement, did that raise the awareness of American businesses that this is an opportunity and to think more about, because it seems like since that free trade agreement, there have been additional agreements and partnerships and collaborations that have been established between U.S. and Colombia?
Absolutely. That had been in negotiations for several years. Mm-hmm. Then it was approved, and it took a while until it came into effect last year, exactly in May. And now, as you mentioned, more people are aware of what is happening in Colombia, how Colombia is still growing, even during the crisis of 2008 and 2009. And now Colombian exports are growing very fast, and Colombia continues to negotiate and sign new free trade agreements with countries all over the world.
You told me an interesting fact when we were meeting in the consulate that you noticed when people were applying for visas to go teach maybe, yes. And the numbers were fairly small. You say that you've seen a dramatic increase in those numbers in recent years, that people with education backgrounds and maybe thinking of going to Colombia to teach English, this might be their first choice right now.
Absolutely. Colombia is a great country to live, from a family, to teach, to learn, to experience in a relatively small place, have different experiences. And as you mentioned, even though it's the same job, same scope, same description, if I compare my first job at the consulate 12 years ago and today, it is completely different. At that time, we were talking about Plan Colombia and guerrillas and narco-trafficking. Today, we talk this, only business, and more people are retiring, and they choose Colombia to live after retirement. These teachers that you are mentioning,
exactly.
Corporations are opening offices there and sending their executives to set businesses there. Sometimes along with Colombian companies, sometimes just by themselves, sometimes just looking for an agent to distribute their product. So it's a completely different dynamic.
Speaking of that, you have kind of a sister organization that focuses a lot on the expansion of trade and business activities called ProExport. And they recently had a phenomenal event here in Chicago. I believe it was at Navy Pier. And it brought a large number of small and medium-sized businesses, which is quite unusual because a lot of times when we talk about trade in the United States, we always talk about the big companies, Deere, Caterpillar, ADM. But you had an event that was focused on mid-sized firms and small businesses and really making that link. And so is ProExport something that wasn't around 15 years ago, but now has help to bolster this activity of business interaction between America and Colombia?
The ProExport has been for many years, and in particular in the United States. What they did was to change the approach. In the past, they had one office in Miami and one office in New York, and the trade office at the embassy in Washington. What they do now is they have agents in key cities. So in Chicago, there are now three agents, and they are in charge of foreign direct investment, trade, and tourism. So they are here to serve, and you can contact them, and you can look at the ProExport webpage, which is proexport.com.co, and find the contacts here in Chicago.
Well, I've certainly been looking, and it seems like, I know Jose says every time he looks in his inbox, I'm sending him an email about something I found out about Colombia. But it's so fascinating that I'm coming across all of this information. It's a hot spot for the establishment of data centers. From my background in telecommunications and IT, Colombia is just exploding with Level 3 and other major companies coming down, establishing data centers and points of presence in Colombia. And Colombia also is very unique in terms of South American countries, because having these big metropolis, Bogota, Cali, the others, that all have a different flavor, yet are big bustling cities, some as big or bigger than Chicago.
Yeah, and Bruce, and this is not only data centers, it's help desk, outsourcing capabilities, and in many cases they are even developing software.
Yes.
And if you look at it from a US standpoint, it will be very convenient because Colombia is 4 hours away. So you can really outsource the capability down there, and if there is a major issue, people will fly immediately into fixing the problems here in America. So Colombia is a really nice destination. And again, my point, and I really want to insist, the working ethics from the Colombians are really best in class. People are extremely well prepared. They speak English. They work hard, and they deliver quality services.
So this is an area of a lot of growth, just like in Chicago, where Chicago is now getting its entrepreneurial energies up again, and we're focused a lot on digital startups and firms and technology. The very same industries that Chicago is becoming very known for are the same ones that are happening in Colombia. Biotech, pharmaceuticals, agribusiness. Colombia being probably the most biodiverse country on the planet. So from the sea, the ocean, to the hills, and it's just an amazing place. It seems so phenomenal, but these are business opportunities. Are you, Consul General, noticing that we have some historic connections between Chicago and Colombia? You mentioned yourself that you worked in the road building and background as a civil engineer.
Yes.
And so companies in those fields have been doing business in Colombia for many, many decades. You mentioned Deere, Caterpillar, the company that you were connected with, all are there. What are some of the other industries that are having a lot of enthusiasm in terms of this connection between Colombian companies and American companies partnering to exploit some of these growth industries in Colombia?
Just to mention some of the big corporations that have a headquarters here in the area, we have the presence of Ingredient, Kraft and Mondelez, Abbott Laboratories, the Unilever, they have presence in Colombia. So there are many companies already with presence in Colombia, and not mentioning the other ones, Procter & Gamble and many others that are not in Chicago but in the Midwest. And they have enjoyed Colombia and the Colombian business environment for many years, and now that everything has changed and is even more open, they will get even more benefits.
And Chicago, with the great academic institutions, you mentioned the fact that because there is such an appreciation for higher education and the commitment to education on the part of the Colombian population. So people, you've just got a huge student population of undergraduates, and many of those undergraduates in those universities come to Chicago, and so there's a Colombian alumni association literally at all of the business schools and technology schools in the Chicago area. So Kellogg at Northwestern,
Yes.
Booth at Chicago, Champaign, U of I, and UIC, all of them have very enthusiastic Colombian presence. So, now are you seeing that more Colombians, instead of just automatically thinking Miami or New York, are starting to say, hey, you know, there's some things going on in Chicago, a place that they might want to visit?
Mm-hmm. No, in fact, the interest of that higher education from Colombia, the city that competes with Chicago is Boston.
Okay.
In Colombia, many people look at the two biggest universities in Boston, but they compare those to Northwestern and Chicago, and also Loyola University. So those are, or DePaul, those are in the minds of those who want a postgraduate degree.
So Jose, back to our event on November 12th.
Yeah.
It's going to be hosted by Baker & McKenzie,
Baker & McKenzie and United.
Baker & McKenzie and United Airlines.
So,
And this is a phenomenal, just to come and be in this facility is such a wonderful spot. It is the perfect spot. And Baker McKenzie, of course, is this giant global law firm that, again, a lot of Chicagoans don't often talk about, but this is the biggest global law firm on the planet.
yeah, actually, Baker & McKenzie has been extremely generous with us. They allow us to use their facilities. One of the lawyers from Baker will be at the panel discussion as well. So we are really thankful for them. And the other one is that we also want to thank United, because United will kindly offer a couple of free tickets for those who attend the meeting. So
Now, if somebody is fortunate to win one of those United tickets, can they fly to Bogota?
absolutely, yeah. Actually, the ticket will be, it's a free ticket from Chicago to South America.
Okay.
So you can either go directly into Bogota or probably Cali or Medellin, which is
Very,
nice.
very
Yeah.
good, very good. So,
The other
yes.
thing I really want to discuss very quickly is, if you look at Colombia also, the government of Colombia has made a mandate saying one of the pillars for Colombia to grow will be innovation. So innovation is extremely important in the agenda for the Colombian government. And innovation really has a tightly connection into IT. So therefore you see all these shared services, software development, and call desk capabilities being grooming out of Colombia.
Well, I think that I talked to a friend of mine who spent some time in Colombia working for Qualcomm. Qualcomm is a leading provider of CDMA wireless technology, and they're a company out of San Diego. And so this friend of mine, he helped to establish, to prove the digital technology as cell phones were going from analog to digital, and Qualcomm was the real leader in that space. They wanted to go to prove the capacities of these capabilities. So they built an entire network as a proof point, and then eventually turned it over to an operator. But he talked about that experience of having good people on the ground who were able to know how to get towers built and get backhaul run to the towers, and then to have the help desk and the call centers too, because they actually handle the influx of subscribers and all of this. One of the first major digital wireless systems in South America. And he just talked about it being a great experience. And so again, because Colombia having this infrastructure of high-speed connectivity, wireless connectivity, so now you have entrepreneurs that are developing mobile solutions and technologies to support the same kind of infrastructure that we're so excited about here. So these platforms now are becoming global. So we're seeing innovation in terms of mobile development, Android development. And Jose, this is right in your sweet spot, because you've been talking to enterprise CIOs about how to get grounded with all of this change and innovation. And so when you take a global view of this, what are some of the tenets that you like to inflect into your conversation with CIOs about not being disrupted to where you're paranoid, but where you look at this opportunity as a way to lead and take your business on these streams of opportunity forward?
Yeah, actually, everything I think about Colombia, I would say, first of all, from a geography standpoint, Colombia is right in the center of America. So it's not too south, it's not too close to the US, it's just in the center. So it's a very conveniently located place. Second one, their working ethics are very good. And the other thing that is interesting is a virgin territory. So if you want to invest, you don't need to compete too hard to enter Colombia. So there are other markets in Latin America who are really overloaded with competitors. Colombia tends to be kind of a virgin territory for American companies to really invest and dominate the marketplace.
Consul General Gomez, I know that your primary work is to be the interface here in Chicago. You deal a lot with the state of Illinois, with the city of Chicago. Have you found that our governments are more desirous and more interested? I know you and I talked about Governor Quinn and his interest in support for having closer ties. Have you seen an increase like that in Illinois and the city to be more sensitive to be hospitable and to be interested and to encourage business leaders to take advantage of your presence and working with your office to get down and visit and create the kind of connections that could grow business?
Absolutely. Just last week, we met with Governor Quinn because of the Hispanic Heritage Month, and one of the topics he mentioned with me particularly was the desire of him go to Colombia, or at least send a delegation from the state of Illinois to Colombia. And he mentioned the increase of exports of Illinois products to Colombia after the free trade agreement came into force. And regarding Mayor Emanuel, he was key with President Obama in the signature of the free trade agreement.
That's very good, because he probably worked on it when he was there in the White House advising the president. Yeah. So we're very excited about this event, and it's coming up on November the 12th. People can find out about it. Can they? Do they go to IERJ online to find out about the event? Is one of the places they can see the detail of who's speaking and how to register to be involved with the event?
Yeah, actually the meeting is going to be at 4:30 on November the 12th. And they can go to our website to find out something about the event per se. Or they can even send me an email and I will gladly send them their flyer if they want.
All right. Well, I think it's going to be a phenomenal event, and it is a place where people will be able to meet and mingle and make some connections and have people who can provide some assistance. And like we've been saying, we want to not just have this be a summit and a conference, but we want this to carry over after the conference and really find some folks, and in fact maybe take the governor up on his offer and assemble a team of people who will go and visit this great country of Colombia. Well, Consul General Gomez, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to the event on the 12th. And you've been so gracious and so enthused about this. You're making all of us excited. And Jose, my hat's off to you as well for the great leadership that you've done, and the whole IERJ team. You and James Wade and the others as co-chair have done a good job of pulling this together this year, and it's going to be very exciting.
Thank you, Bruce.
Well, if you have just been enthused in the least, you say, I can come on downtown to Chicago to the wonderful law firm of Baker & McKenzie and spend an afternoon with these wonderful business leaders who can take you by the hand and teach you about some phenomenal opportunities in this country. And you will be rubbing shoulders with people that have spent years practicing and growing enterprises and creating revenues, not only here in the United States, but around the world and Latin America in particular. If you want to get any information about this program and you think you might want to come, you can call us here at Technology Access Television at 312-725-8601, or you can send us an email, as you see on the screen right now, to get any information about this exciting event. It is coming up November 12th. You've got plenty of time to make a reservation to be there. You should be there, because this is your opportunity to find out how to do business in Colombia. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and thank you for joining me on this edition of Technology Access Television. Have a good evening.